Hey, what's up everybody? This is Ben from Westview Fitness, and I'm going to give you a quick little preview of what we had in store for us last week. We had Cassie's brother, Quinten Quintero, come in and do a pretty awesome crock pot class where he basically killed it with 3 great recipes. So it was a feed class. We're going to give you a quick preview of one of the recipes that he made for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. Here he is.
For the longest time, I had no idea how to cook like Miss Patty over here. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't understand it. I thought I was going to burn the house down. And so I ate a lot of processed foods. And I was probably a good 40 to 50 pounds heavier than I am now for a majority of my life. And it wasn't until I started cooking for myself that I realized, like, this is really, really not that hard at all. And going back to processed foods, like, just after you get in the habit of eating these like fresh foods that are easy to make because they're really fresh, eating processed food, it takes on a whole different world, especially like saltiness. Have any of y'all experienced that? Like you take a bite of a potato chip or like a fast food fry and you're like, oh my Lord, there's so much salt in this. Cool, well, let's get started. What I want to show you guys today, you all have recipes in front of you. So, huge point I want to make is recipes are just buoys. They're guidelines. Like a huge thing for me when I first started cooking was like measuring everything out. Like if it said like a tablespoon of this, like I was like, ugh, cleaning the top of the tablespoon, and if I had one more, I thought the whole thing was going to be ruined. And that's not how it works. So those are just guidelines. If you are a huge fan of Brussels sprouts, add more Brussels sprouts. If you hate Brussels sprouts, don't put them in there. You know, it's up to you, and it's really not that big of a deal. These are just guidelines for you to play around with. So what we're going to be cooking today is a hearty veggie stew. This I would normally serve with some quinoa. Has anyone ever made quinoa? Yeah? Cool. Yeah, I love it. It's packed with protein. It's very, very filling.
It's a seed? It's
a seed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just full of protein. And I use it now instead of like rice all the time. So this I would serve over a bed of rice. If you want to get really fancy with it, you can top it with a poached egg. And that's really, really lovely. I also usually serve this with a roast that I would do in the same batch. But I don't have the means to brown meat here, so I didn't bring it. So I'll just tell you real quick. If you want to do a roast, you would just get a pan really hot. You would salt and pepper. So if you go out to a nice restaurant, you get a nice piece of meat. It usually has like a really lovely crust on it. And that crust comes from a lot of salt and a lot of pepper and a very, very hot stove. So you just sear it on each side, and then sear it on the sides of it, and then just drop it in there. And what's great about it is all that excess salt that you probably don't want is going to just get used in the stew. So there's no need to salt it anymore. Cool, so we're gonna make that. We're going to make this citrus poblano chicken soup that I love. I'm a huge fan of cilantro and lime. And then I'm gonna make, I just recently started to make this, and if y'all haven't met, that's my fiance back there, Taylor.
I saw that on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. And she devours this stuff. Yeah, this is quinoa, and it's just for dessert, for breakfast. If you want to cheat a little, this has a little bit of sugar in it, but really it's quinoa, bananas, and nuts. It's not really that bad for you. Cool, so let's get started. So an important thing to note, on your recipes it says like approximately 5 hours. All of these would take about 5 hours, but the first time you cook anything in your slow cooker, you do want to keep an eye on it, just so you get to know your slow cooker, because all of them cook at different times. Like my quinoa, it takes 5 hours at home. I cooked it in this thing and it was done in 3. So I would know next time, 3 hours. So yeah, just these are things that you can leave alone, but the first go around, you do want to see how it progresses. So let's go ahead and knock this vegetable one out of the way. Yeah. Cool, so these are root vegetables that I use in this. Just root vegetables work really well together. But again, you can play around. You can add whatever vegetable you want. I love Brussels sprouts. They aren't a root vegetable, but I love them. And so I use them in this. So is everyone familiar with knives? How to use them?
I don't use them.
No? Cool, yeah. So that's good, So a knife, like, just a few things about knives. It's not really this. Like when I first started, I would just put like a carrot down and just try to chop at it. You want to rock. It's all about the rock. Yeah? Cool, and then when you're holding your food, you want to tiger claw it. Yeah? Always keep your fingers behind your knuckles, and then your knuckles act as a guide. So you can, like I had a chef I worked with that would just talk to you while he was just doing everything, and I'm like, oh, you're crazy. But he just always had the knife pressed up against his knuckles, so he never had anything to worry about. Cool, so this is the really interesting part where you watch me cut up vegetables.
You don't have to peel it or anything, you just cut it.
No. That's another thing. There's a lot of things that people do that you don't need to do. Yeah. Cool. So again, this is up to you. I just take about 3 or 4 carrots. If you want to make like a big pot of it, then you would use more. I make usually small batches, just enough for me and my lady, and a few leftovers. So just keep that in mind. If you're cooking for 4, 5, you might just want to increase everything a bit. So yeah, you're literally just going to dump everything in here. Yeah, and talk out loud, ladies. Fill the space. What's up?
I was asking, I know Patty, so I said, do you have a crock pot? And she answers away, but I just purchased that. I love it because I had a basic one, and I feel so fancy, and I love the liner, the crock pot liner.
Yeah.
So it's such easy cleanup.
Right? Isn't that another great thing about it?
All about the liner.
No, I bought a new one, and I didn't like it. I got rid of it.
Was it
It
like
was
that?
like going too fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
It cooked too fast?
I like this one.
yeah, dry my stuff out right here.
Oh.
Now my warming drawer will act as a slow cooker, so it's just a different setting.
Why is
It's
it
like
warming
Corningware.
drawer?
Like Corningware, I just use that.
You put it in the
and
warming
put it
drawer
in
like
my
that?
warming drawer, but you have to have a setting for slow
Oh.
cook. And mine does, I don't know. So that's what I know.
A warming drawer. I don't know if I do. She has a setting for slow cooking.
Yeah.
You don't use. That's
No,
it.
it's only
I don't have to see if I have that.
And so, ladies, just aesthetically, you see a lot of people like worry. So when you get to like fancy knife work, there's of course like ways to make everything real uniform. But with a rustic style dish like this, like where you just want hearty vegetables, it's perfectly fine. And that's kind of the trend now, like is like that artisan trend of look at these vegetables. They're not all cut perfectly. Some of them are chunky, some of them are whole. And that's across the board for all these dishes. So don't worry about like having everything perfect. Don't worry about chopping everything up real fine. Like these potatoes, I'm just quartering them. And I love color. I love color in my dishes. So as you see, I got a bag of multicolored potatoes. Yeah, exactly. And in this dish, I love to use purple sweet potato. It's so beautiful, mixed in with the green. I love it. But yeah, that's who said about cleaning, how easy it is? Yeah, absolutely. Because when you cook a meal, you dirty up so many pans, you dirty up so many dishes. And this, you just dump everything in.
So we can see what that looks like.
You don't have a, that black thing, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And these are huge, by the way. Like the one I have at home is maybe like half the size of this one. And that's what I cook in. Yeah.
I use queso in that.
Yeah. See, yeah, exactly. The itty bitty one. I make all this stuff in that itty bitty one. And it usually makes like a meal for her and I, and then leftovers for the next day. So you can feed an army with this if you want to. And again, this is all this stuff super cheap. I got enough groceries to make, so I've already pre-made all these dishes and enough to make them again, all for like under 80 bucks. So that's another thing that I learned, like a big fallacy that I believed was that healthy cooking is expensive. And that's a reason why I kept going to McDonald's where I could get like a burger for $1. But really, it's not. Veggies and fresh meat are super cheap.
Now, because I'm really basic here,
Yeah.
you don't have to peel the carrots, obviously.
No, I'm not peeling the carrots. I'm not peeling the potatoes. I mean, it comes down, really, I don't know why anyone would do that. You know?
Okay.
Do what? I'm sorry.
Peel the carrots.
Peel the carrots, peel the potatoes. It doesn't really make that big of a difference
Okay.
for the time it takes. And yeah,
It's like there's dirt in those little creases.
I mean there are, but you know, a little dirt,
Flavor.
a little dirt won't hurt.
I feel like they're cleaner when I.
Now, I assume that you're talking in terms of organic.
Yes, root vegetables are the ones that I really, so live with your budget, you know. If paying 3 times as much for some organic is not really your idea of what you want to do with your money, that's totally fine. But root vegetables are where I would spend the money to get organic because they're in the ground and usually you can wash everything off, but when they're in the soil, they're like literally soaking everything up. So those are the ones that I would spend the extra buck on. Cool. And again, I'm not putting in the recipe like cut up 8 Brussels sprouts. It's up to you. Use your best judgment. If you see your pot's getting full, everything looks nice, then great, you're done.
If anyone has an old crock pot that they no longer use or doesn't function for them, I will buy it for use with wax. I love wax.
Nice.
I will buy it from you is what I'm saying.
Do you make your own candles or what waxwork do you do?
No, I work in bronze.
Oh.
And I do all my sculptures with wax.
That's
And,
lovely.
So I need to,
Oh, I did sculpting for a time. You put the wax and then you shape, create the.
yeah,
How long have you been doing that?
about 3.5 years.
Wow.
That's hard. It's hard. Sculpting is very hard. I did it when I was in Russia, so I know Russian gurus.
Cool, so one thing you do want to take the peel off of is an onion. Yeah, just a heads up. Don't throw that whole thing in there. Bad news. So again, you know, there's fancy ways to dice up an onion. With a rustic stew, you don't really want that. So I'm just chopping this up in large chunks.
Is there a reason you're using a purple onion rather than a white?
It's purely aesthetic.
Okay.
Yeah, I like lots of color. But if you want to use a white onion,
Does it matter
Go
with
for
any
it.
recipe? I just don't really. I mean, I know this is sweeter, right? And the red pepper.
I mean, it really,
Really is a little sweet. That's just sweet.
yeah, I mean, and again, it comes down to like such a minute difference. And that's another thing I want to. Yeah, and that's another thing like I want to encourage is like use what you have around the house. You know, like these are great fridge emptier recipes. You know, like you've got some squash that's gonna go bad if you don't use it. Throw squash in there.
Sweet potato instead of potato.
Sweet potato instead of potato. Absolutely, yeah. If you're like, man, I want like that hardiness, but I don't want just empty carbs, throw sweet potatoes in there. Absolutely.
So sweet potato is a better carb than a regular potato?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just got a ton more nutrients.
Yeah. And beta carotene.
Yeah, beta carotene.
Yeah.
Very good for you. And they taste way better, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my first health foods that I just could not get enough of. Sweet potato, everything. And again, a baked sweet potato is so easy. Put it in foil, throw it in the oven, come back in an hour. All right, cool. And that's, voila, all there is to it. I add garlic. Garlic is another thing you're gonna wanna take the peel off of. And then peeling garlic, a lot of people make it way more difficult than it is. All you gotta do to peel garlic is smash it with a knife. So, put it down, smash it, peel comes right off. See, like that.
Just the whole garlic in there with that?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Again, because this is gonna stew, this is gonna cook. It's gonna be bubbling in there for hours, so. Yeah, it'll break down. And again, that's another reason why you can just really give it a good smash in with this knife. And voila, cool. And then when I cook it with my roast, if you want to get fancy with it, what I do is searing that roast, I deglaze the pan. So deglaze is just a fancy word for getting all the brown bits off of the pan, because that's where there's tons of flavor in there, where you've left all that salt and seared meat. So I would take the roast out of the pan, dump it in there with everything, take the pan, just put a little bit of butter in there just to kind of loosen everything up, and then pour wine, and it's going to cause a big scene. Don't freak out. There will be a lot of smoke, a lot of hissing, but you just scrape those little bits off of your pan, and then I would take that, dump it in here, and that would be my broth. Yeah? Cool. And I love cooking with alcohol. I use wine in this, I use beer in this, and when you cook with it, all the alcohol cooks off, so you're not like gonna get drunk off of eating it. It adds a great depth of flavor. So I would just put.
Are you showing us the deglaze or no?
No, I don't have the means for it.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Can you say the steps again?
Yeah. So you would sear your meat and you would take it off. And I'm sure if like it happens with chicken, it happens with pork chops, it happens with everything. You have just those bits left over. So you would put a little butter in there. You would turn your pan off. Put a little butter. Mix it around, get a wooden spoon, whatever like serving spoon you have, and then pour a wine, I would say about a cup, and it's gonna cause a big scene.
While it's hot.
Yeah, while it's hot. Right, because you don't need to cook it anymore. And then just stir it around and scrub at the pan, get all those bits up, and once you've done that, I would just pour it right in there.
I guess I'm very fast in this question, but
Yeah.
I don't cook roasts, but I think they're delicious. But when I go and ask the guy at the meat counter, what do I just the roast? I mean, what's the healthiest kind of?
Healthy. I mean, a roast is usually just the reason why it's cooked that way is because it's not the best chunk of meat. Okay. That's usually why they're extremely cheap. Because they're going to have a lot of fat. They're going to be very tough. And that's why you cook them like this, is because it tenderizes them.
But what
Yeah.
about like a bison roast, a round, or how that would cook?
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be fine.
Because, you know, how they,
Yeah, I think
you
you
know
said
how
for
they're
us.
cooking now, like last night we made, venison meat, and so
Uh-huh.
we cooked it on, and I've done this with my bison steaks, 500 on the grill,
Uh-huh.
a couple minutes on each side, because it can get tough. So I'm wondering how a bison.
Yeah, I think it would do
Because that's
well.
really lean meat. Okay. But I'm just worried about the tough factor if it cooks a long time.
No, I actually think because roasts are generally tough, and cooking it like this is what makes it fall apart.
Yeah.
So I don't see why that wouldn't work the same way on the on the bison.
Right. It was the same. Would it taste good though?
Well, it tastes it tastes like earthier, a lot gamier. But some people like that. I love that taste.
I don't find it all that gamey.
Okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
all that, the other flavors in there would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it tastes really hearty.
Steaks and they're
Basically, you're
ice
talking like a pot roast.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Cool. And so yeah, I just added about a cup of wine in here, and then if you wanted to, you could add like beef stock or vegetable stock, and that's it. And then I would put the lid on it, I'd turn it on, and I'd come back in 4 or 5 hours, and I'd have this. Cool, and if we want, we can give that a taste real quick. Yeah, let's see what that tastes like. It's been cooking away over here. Oh goodness.
Is it on medium or high or,
I put it on high just because the,
5 or 45 hours?
because you want to cook it, like the rule is, you just want to cook it until like the vegetables get soft. And potatoes usually take the longest. And when you cut them in a chunkier fashion, then they're going to take longer. So,
What's the advantage of doing it this way versus putting the pot in the oven?
I guess that this is a little less dangerous. Like you can ignore this
Okay.
a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, these are like literally, not to steal someone else's phrase, but set it and forget it. You know, like put it down there and then go about your day. You can leave the apartment, run some errands, come home, you got dinner. And like, you leave something in the oven for too long, you're gonna have a fire. You leave this on too long, it's just gonna be dry.